Hi everybody, my name is Landon. Today's this is episode 105 of the Vortex Apologetic podcast.
Welcome to the Vortex Apologetic, where substance reigns over mindless entertainment. Because biblical truth matters in a profound, timely, and urgent way in a lost and dying world.
Just what you have fathomed
And now, introducing your humble servants in Jesus Christ, Ricardo, aka Beef, Arenas, and Jeff, the Brain, Claiborne.
Oh, how you doing, brother?
I am scared, bro. I shall not pass.
You shall not pass. That was, of course, from the Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
Yep. Or was that Donald Trump talking to Joe Biden? I don't know.
You know what? It could be one of the attorneys.
It could be one of the attorneys.
The lawsuits and all the...
Yes, that could be.
You shall not pass.
You shall not pass. We have a lot for you, folks. Oh, my goodness. It's
been quite the last week and a half. I mean, I know it's taking us a little longer to get our next podcast going, but within the week,
both you and I have been putting in a lot of work, and we've been wanting to get on this podcast, and, of course, God has His divine timing for this stuff. Folks, pass this podcast around because we're about to talk about some stuff that is going to blow your minds. And most people are only seeing the tip of the iceberg on what's going on in our country right now.
Yep.
And a lot of people are deceived, thinking everything's just normal and Trump's just acting out. He's just being a sore loser in the White House.
Yeah.
Boy, nothing could be further from the truth. Oh, my goodness, we have so much going on. And we're going to put everything into a biblical perspective. We're going to look at the scriptures. We're going to look at John Rushdoony, the biblical the Institutes of Biblical Law. We're going to quote from that. We're going to look at some videos. We're going to look at what attorneys are doing. We're going to look at the Constitution, see what it says about this whole situation. We got a lot to cover.
It is a lot to cover.
So it might be a part one and a part two to this.
Let's do this. Let's get into this. So we're talking election, brother. So, I mean, last we left off from our last podcast was that they were still counting, right? We had no announced winner, blah, 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 blah. Now, obviously, it's come to light. Although the Democrats and the news media are claiming, that Biden is going to be the elect president. They're already, pretty much said he's the winner. But we have sources, and Trump has been, this is a smart man we're dealing with. Folks, don't get caught up into his tweets. How about that? He's an extremely smart man. There's a reason why he's rich.
Yeah, you don't get rich by being dumb.
But brother, tell us, what's been transpiring lately? I know there's a lot to fill us in there.
Let me give the cosmic view of what's going on, and then we'll take a big lens and zoom in on the details. Right. I believe what's going on is that God is divinely intervening into this election. And I have reasons for believing that. I don't just make statements like that.
Yeah.
But I believe there is divine intervention into this election. I believe that international corruption is being exposed.
Okay.
And will be dealt with according to God's purpose and will.
Well, let's get into that. Start off with your reasons why you think God is intervening.
Well, that's going to be part one and part two.
Okay. Well,
that's the
one.
overview. So we're going to be looking at Psalm 10. We're going to be looking at principles. We're going to be talking about where the church needs to be when it comes to government.
That's huge.
Yes. And I'm going to bring Rush Dooney in on that one.
Oh, little Rush, huh?
But let's start with the scriptures. How about that?
Let's do it, brother.
Psalm chapter 10. Now listen to what God has to say, folks. And this is going to be a foundation for everything else we're going to be talking about. Why standest thou afar off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? And we have this sense that where is God in all of this, right? Mm-hmm. God's right in the middle of it.
Yep.
The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Well, this could be the global elites looking down their noses and stomping on the deplorables. Mm-hmm. We could put it that way. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. Now, what are the devices that they have imagined? Well, we'd be talking about the machines used for voting, the Dominion machines, and how they were designed to turn the election through fraud and corruption. But those who sought to do that have been taken by the very devices that they have imagined to use to turn the election.
Yeah.
This is incredible. God is divine intervening. Now, look, folks, that's not what that meant in the day that it was written, as far as, there was no voting machines back there or anything. But the general principle of what's being stated here is clear. Those who seek corruption, those who seek wickedness, they will be taken by the very things that they are seeking to use to take advantage over others.
So the big picture would be, even if Trump is not elected, the fact that he pushed and they investigated and all this fraud and all these things are coming up, it's going to change history as far as the way we go when it comes to voting, right?
It is going to change history. We are living in historic times. Mm-hmm. This is going to be viewed as an amazing, unique time by our grandkids and our great-grandkids in history. We are living through something that I don't think we realize we are living through. People are going to look back on this 150 years from now and still talk about it in the history books. What happened in this election. Yeah. That's how big this is, folks. We'll continue on in verse 3. For the wicked boast of the heart's desire, and blessed the covetous, whom the Lord abhors. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts. The global elites, the people who have manufactured this whole situation, they have coordinated it. They've got to be scratching their heads right now going, how did it all fall apart? Why didn't it work? Yeah. Because you've got some of the most intelligent minds on the planet that were working to defeat Trump and to manufacture this psyop and this deception among the people, right, and the gaslighting, and it didn't work. It didn't work not because of the people and not because of Trump, but because they picked the fight with the wrong entity. They picked the fight with God. Mm-hmm. And they're going to lose that fight. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above, out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puts at them. He puffs at them. He puffs at them. He just got whatever. He just, God puffs at the wicked. Think about that. Mm-hmm. In a sense, what it's saying is he mocks them. Yeah. Through his puffing, through his gesturing, through his countenance. Mm-hmm. He has said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. This is what the wicked is saying. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. We're talking about fraud in this election, right? Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. Mm-hmm. He sits in the lurking places of the villages. In other words, they're scheming in the dark places. They're scheming at 4 a.m. in the middle of the night to bring votes in. Mm-hmm. that were never cast. Where am I?
You were an 8.
8, okay. Yes, here we are. His eyes are privily set against the poor. They were set against Trump voters. They were set against ordinary, everyday people who were just trying to cast their vote. Whether it be for Trump or Biden, they were targeting the mass number of people. Over 70 million people who were voting for Trump. They knew they were losing. And they had to act, and they acted hastily, and the very device they used to try to turn the election is coming back to bite them. He sits in the lurking places of villages, in the secret places does he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. He lays in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lies in wait to catch the poor. He does catch the poor when he draws him into his net. They lay a spider web, a net of corruption. And it's massive on an international scale. He crouches and humbles himself that the poor may fall by his strong ones. They act humble. They act, oh, there's no election fraud. Oh, we're just here for you. Oh, all the deceptive hisses of the serpent in the garden, they're hissing. He crouches and humbles himself that the poor may fall by his strong ones. He has said in his heart, God has forgotten. Where is your God that's supposed to rescue you? He hides his face. He will never see it. Arise, O Lord, O God, lift up thine hand, forget not the humble. Wherefore doth the wicked contempt God? He has said in his heart, thou wilt not require it. Thou hast seen it, for thou holdest mischief and spite, to requite it with thy hand. The poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless. Break thou the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Seek out his wickedness till thou find none. The Lord is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land. The Lord is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land. God's going to drive them out. Lord, thou hast heard the desire of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thine ear to hear, to judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. Take heart, conservatives. Take heart, Christians. Stop being down in the mouth. Stop acting like you're defeated. Stop giving up. We're not even getting started yet. This thing is going to blow wide open. And God is going to expose the heathen. God is going to expose the evil. He's going to expose the corruption. He's already exposing the corruption. We're seeing tips of the iceberg already. This thing is going to blow up in the faces of those who wanted to put humanity, the entire globe, under their draconian, Orwellian thumb. God is going to bring them down. Not Trump, not you and me. God Almighty, who they have shook their fist at, is bringing them to their knees. And it's happening, and they can't figure out what's going on. They're scratching their heads trying to figure out, stop doing that, boombox. They can't figure it out. They're scratching their heads going, how did this fall apart? How did this go wrong?
Yeah.
This is exposing corruption in the CIA, in the government, among the politicians, in the media.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we can go down the list.
Yeah.
And they're all scratching, and they were all coordinating.
Oh, yeah.
And they lost. They're losing.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't figure out why. What went wrong? I'll tell you what went wrong, guys, because if you listen to this podcast or NSA, if you like to plug in and listen to our conversations, I'll tell you why it went wrong. You picked on the wrong God, the creator of heaven and earth, the ruler of his universe. You picked on him. That's what went wrong.
That's huge. That's huge. Right when, especially as Christians, right when we think or our thought is, where is God? Man, he's in the midst of it all.
He's in the middle of it. God,
we don't realize it. We don't see it. But as things get exposed or the sinfulness has been drawn out, it's like hitting a brick wall with a 100-mile-an-hour car and just boom, being a train wreck. Yeah. It's just that's what happens. I mean, the Lord. We can't mock the Lord. We can't do these things against him.
God is not mocked.
So.
And they've been mocking God for years with their draconian Orwellian plans.
Right. And it goes to tell you, that when people or the church thinks it's being persecuted, especially here in the United States, it's being persecuted or it's being, there goes the church now. God is purging the church. He's cleaning it out.
Yes.
Is judging it a certain way so that he can continue with his remnant. But at the same time, he's also exposing and bringing to light the sinfulness, corruption, oppression that goes out in our society too. And as Christians, a way we should respond, brother.
If you're a Christian that believes that we're in the end days, the Antichrist is going to show up any time now, and the rapture is going to occur, and the tribulation period is going to hit. Once this thing really begins to get exposed, and corruption begins to fall like dominoes, you're going to be scratching your head too, trying to figure out, well, what happened? Because that doesn't fit the narrative that I've been taught when it comes to what's supposed to be happening today. I thought we were in the end times. I thought evil was going to triumph for a period of time. No, evil's about to get exposed and stomped on by God Almighty.
Right. And isn't that unique to our time either? I mean, we just read Psalm. It's talking about their time.
Right.
And it's the exact same thing.
But it's the same God, and the principle still applies.
Still applies, brother. Just because we have, technology and quicker way of getting information to each other. But other than that, man, it doesn't matter. Right.
So now we need to talk about what's going on in the election, updates on the election, what's happening.
Yep. We knew that there were some states that were still recounting, right? And there were some lawsuits involved.
Well, the recounts, let me put it this way. The recounts are garbage. Recounts are not going to do anything.
Right.
It's not recounts that we need, it's full audits.
Right.
Now, a recount is where you recount the ballots.
Right, but there's no investigation, there's no looking into.
Right. There needs to be full audits. And people are demanding it. Georgia is in upheaval right now. Right now, as we do this podcast, people are gathering in the streets and demanding from their governor and their elected officials that an audit be done in Georgia. Demanding it. They're not taking no for an answer. Now, when's the last time you saw a bunch of hardworking conservatives gather in the street and demand anything? Here's the thing. God is stirring that up, folks. God is stirring the hornet's nest of corruption and spraying it with bug spray. Poisoning it, killing it. He's rising up the people. I believe there are more people who are dedicating their life to the Lord today than there has been any time in my lifetime. And it's under the radar because the news media won't talk about it. And you want to know who's rising up? They're rising up. Now, there's some other people mixed in with them that may not be among Christ people, but it's Christ people that are leading the charge against this corruption. We don't back down from corruption, folks. We attack it. We fight it. We fight it the way David fought against Saul. We fight it the way David fought against Absalom. We fight it the way David fought in the wilderness. We fight it the way the children of Israel fought the army of Egypt. We fight it in God's power. We get on our knees and we ask God to divinely intervene into this election and to expose the corruption. I believe people have been doing that because it's happening. It's happening.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I guess we're kind of heading in that direction, but I want to pause here for just a second because we're going to talk about how it's being exposed. But let's talk about the constitutionality, how this whole thing works constitutionally. Number one, nobody has more than 270 electors yet.
Right.
No. Now, you go on Facebook, you go on Twitter, and you type something out about the election, and this little burp comes on the bottom, and it says, the AP has called the election for Joe Biden. Well, big a whoop-de-doo. The Associated Press called it for Biden. The Associated Press doesn't determine anything when it comes to an election. They don't determine who won the election. When states are disputed, you cannot count those electors. Now, as it stands right now, Trump's at 232, Biden's at 227. And that's not fake news, folks. Fake news is the one that says that Trump is at 290. He's not. Now, there is no president-elect. There's no such thing as a president-elect until the electors meet at the Electoral College and make a decision. On December 8th, that's the deadline. That's the safe haven. That's the deadline when the electors have to make a commitment to one candidate or the other. And then they vote after making that commitment on December 14th. So that's how the Electoral College is supposed to work. Now, many of these electors are not going to be able to legally, well, maybe they could do it legally, but in good conscience, make a decision for one candidate or the other when the state that they're coming from is in turmoil when it comes to election corruption. How do you now the state legislature has to certify the election for the elector to go do what they're going to do. So electors cannot go and be a part of the Electoral College until their state legislature certifies the election in that state. Unless that happens, they can't go. Well, when the dominoes are falling in Michigan, in Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, those electors are probably not going to be able to go to the Electoral College and do anything.
Yeah.
Now, what happens from there? If it comes down to neither Trump nor Biden gets 270, neither one of them have it yet. I don't care what the AP said, Fox News said, CNN said, and you go down the list, they're all fake news. And by the way, they're losing their shirts. They're getting their butts kicked in ratings. They're losing millions and millions of dollars since they made that projection for Joe Biden because people are walking away from them.
Yeah.
Now, if neither one of them get a 270, it goes to the House of Representatives, Congress.
Right.
Now, I gave some inaccurate information in the last podcast on that. Here's the accurate information. One state, one vote, 50 votes in Congress. 31 of those states are Republican ran. That's 31 Republican votes, and then do the math on what's left on the Democrat votes.
Yeah.
If it goes to Congress, Donald Trump wins the election. He could also win it in the courts. However, it appears that many of the lower courts are also corrupt.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to have to go to the Supreme Court to get a correct hearing.
Yeah.
He could win in the courts by
all
having
kinds of different
elections
scenarios.
thrown out. Yeah. How does he win in the courts? They throw out the elections in certain states, or they throw out a certain number of vote like in Pennsylvania. Anything that came in after 8 p.m. on November 3rd gets thrown out.
Yeah.
And then it goes to Trump. They could take Michigan, Wisconsin, and say, you guys are so messed up on your election. Your election is now null and void. The Supreme Court can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Will they? Don't know. That's iffy.
Yeah.
But they could. So there's a number of different ways this could play out. It could be that the Dominion voting machine situation, and this is where you get into the international corruption, because these machines are directly associated with the corruption of the elections in Argentina. Mm-hmm. Also, there's connections to, we're going to look at that during these next two podcasts, connections to China, connections to the Kremlin, connections to certain European nations in this corruption. This is on an international scale. Donald Trump's not big enough to do this.
Sure.
And he's a smart man, but he's not smart enough to coordinate this. This is a conspiracy that God coordinated. You want a conspiracy? Psalm 10. You want a conspiracy? Yeah. Watch God do a conspiracy. Watch God bring down the international players that are playing this game with humanity.
Yeah.
All right. So, constitutionally, that's how the election can run. So nobody's won this election yet. And you can't declare yourself to be president-elect until the Electoral College does that vote. So Biden should not be privy to foreign intelligence briefings and things like that. By the way, Biden violated the Logan Act. He was communicating with foreign leaders as if he were a statesman, as if he were president, or is going to be president. And there's nothing yet that indicates that he will or won't be president. And so that's a violation of the Logan Act. And there's a lot of corruption coming out, a lot of stuff coming out about the Hunter Biden situation. That's connected to the Kremlin and the CCP, and Ukraine has a felony warrant out on Hunter Biden for corruption of what he did in Ukraine.
Oh, yeah. How come that's not being pursued by the media or brought to attention?
Because they're in on it. They're part of the corruption.
Amazing.
God's exposing them too. They're losing their shirt. God's hitting them financially. The mainstream media is about to die. It's all going to go to alternative media. Newsmax took off like a rocket and passed up Fox News.
Yeah.
NTD News is doing well. Epoch Times is just tearing it up. I mean, can we go down to OAN News? Can we go down the list of alternative news sources that 70 million people walked away from CNN and Fox and all that and turned to these alternative news sources, and now they're getting a boost, and they're doing some really good reporting. So you want to go to those alternative news sources, folks. They're on YouTube and places like that. Now, before we move on, do you have anything, brother?
No, brother. I mean, you're pretty much covering every aspect of what's going on. But I think my only, as we're seeing these things come to light, how should a Christian be responding to these things?
We need to have God's attitude. We need to abhor it. We need to have a deep-seated hatred of corruption. And we need...
So you can have a little bit of righteous anger, but not sin.
Righteous anger, you can have a lot of righteous anger, and you're not sinning. Yeah. Remember, God ordains the ends through his sovereign providence, but he also ordains the means by which the ends come. And so the means is that we have to do our part. God, this is a paradox that I've struggled with when it comes to prayer over the years, and the only conclusion I've been able to come to is God ordains both the ends and the means.
Yeah.
If God is sovereign and God is going to do what he's going to do anyway, according to his sovereign providence, why do we need to pray? It's because God ordains the ends, the means as well as the ends, right? He uses prayer as the means to come to the end of what he's doing. And so God ordains the prayer, our part, and he ordains the result of the prayer, his part. When it comes to corruption and us fighting it, God ordains us to go and fight corruption in government. And Russ Dooney is going to tell us why in a little bit. And the ends is up to God. We do the footwork as far as we expose it, just like what's being done with the team of lawyers and everything. Trump is doing the right thing. But God is the one who creates the results.
That's right.
God will allow some judges, lower level judges, to make wrong decisions and oppose the team. And he may be doing that to push it to the higher court.
Right.
So that the higher court will make the right decision and not only affect a section of the country, but affect the entire country and shut the whole thing down through a Supreme Court decision or multiple Supreme Court decisions that affect the entire nation for the good. God has his means and God has his ends.
Yeah.
Marx said the end justifies the means.
That's right.
God said, I ordained the means and the ends.
I'm the author.
Yes.
The creator.
Yes.
Just to give you a little bit of if Joe Biden was to be the president-elect, one of the first things he has promised to sign an executive order reversing President Trump's pro-life policies. The first thing, bro. I mean, it's like,
He's shaking his fist at God.
Yeah, of course. Massachusetts House passes bill removing protections for babies who survive abortion.
It's
going to keep getting worse, bro.
He's an evil man.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the first picks for Joe Biden. He picks pro-abortion activist as his chief of staff.
Well, let me give you some hope, folks. This is L. Linwood. Excuse me. We don't have a cough button, folks. We don't have that kind of budget. Are you kidding me? Anyway, so I'm just going to have to cough, and you guys are going to hear it, and just deal with it. All right, deal with it. Now, the deep state will be defeated. Here's attorney L. Linwood. Listen to what he has to say. This is a very sharp man. Now, these are professional attorneys. These are not shyster ambulance chasing attorneys. These are serious attorneys. These are high players, high level players.
These are times.
Hold on, let me get this set up on the. There we go. Let's set that up so we can really get a good sound quality on this thing. Here we go.
These are times that try men's souls, as Thomas Paine would say. And sometimes you have a tendency to get down. You just this drumbeat from the press, the mainstream media, even Fox, trying to convince you Joe Biden's won the election. You're always looking for glimmers of hope and from optimists, and that's what we try to provide that for you every afternoon. And this morning I woke up and I was looking over the tweets, and I saw a tweet from L. Lynn Wood. He's a famous lawyer. We can get into some of the cases. He had Nicholas Sandman, for instance, from Covington Catholic, and he was involved in the Richard Jewell case a while back. I think he represents Kyle Rittenhouse now and the Kenosha shooter who defended himself. And he's working on the campaign on the challenges. And he put out a tweet at 2:35 this morning. Time now to rest. Comfortable in my belief that real Donald Trump won a historic landslide victory across nation on November 3rd. Be patient. Biden will never be president of our nation. To the contrary, Biden, along with many others, will be an inmate. Be patient. Trust Trump. Joining us now is Lynn Wood. Thank you for that encouraging tweet. That really improved my mood, and I'm sure hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of other people this morning. Lynn Wood.
Well, thank you, Howie, and it's a pleasure to speak with you. That tweet was at 2:35 a.m., and that not only speaks to, I think, the time and effort that I've been putting into this, but really it reflects almost round-the-clock efforts by members of the legal profession and ordinary people of this country that are determined to not only uncover the truth, but to expose the truth. And when all is known, I am 100% confident that Donald Trump will be president of the United States for 4 more years, and I'm just as confident that Joe Biden and the people like him that have been trying to steal this election and committing crimes for years, they're going to all go to jail.
What leads you to be so optimistic? I mean, there's still time, but we're coming up to the dates of the voter certification deadline start at about 9 or 10 days from now, and as you know, it's so hard to prove ballot fraud, especially when they've been mingling the bad ballots with the good ballots to make it impossible for the law-abiding part of the population to do anything about this. Why are you confident? What leads you to think we're going to win?
I believe in we the people. This was a well-planned, probably almost for 2 decades, attack to overthrow our government. Was it well done in the sense of trying to hide the fraud? Sure, but it was too massive. Donald Trump surprised even the enemy by the wide margins in which he won in the key states they had targeted to steal. So in the middle of the night, they started having to produce tens of thousands, in some cases hundreds of thousands, of fake paper ballots. They had set that up with COVID. So will this be resolved by the courts? Yes. But I don't believe that it necessarily has to be resolved by the courts before the people in this country fully recognize by the irrefutable evidence that Joe Biden is illegitimate, his votes were fraudulent, he tried to steal this election and he failed. So the people of this country will actually do what the people in this country are supposed to do. The people will decide who the next president of the United States will be. It will be confirmed by the courts in terms of the illegality of the fraud. But between now and when all these deadlines come to pass, the evidence that will be put out over time will convince any fair-minded and objective American, even many who did not support Trump, that there was a concerted calculated effort to steal our government and our freedom. And in the process, the record will show that they themselves killed many people in this country. These people are despicable. They're criminals. Going forward, I'm confident there will be no more corruption in the White House. Donald Trump's going to drain the swamp. Stay tuned.
Wait, now, are you working in a specific state, or are you just working on the overall strategy?
I'm working specifically on a lawsuit that will be filed in Georgia, where the Georgia election will have to be deemed unlawful and void, because the Democrats got the Secretary of State in Georgia to enter into a consent settlement in litigation in March of this year, where the Secretary of State substantively changed the rules of the election as they related to the absentee ballots. The law doesn't allow the Secretary of State to do that. It has to be done in a federal election by the state legislature.
Right, like in Pennsylvania.
Just like in Pennsylvania, just along the same legal grounds as Justice Alito ruled when he separated the ballots.
Right.
So the state of Georgia will ultimately have to have the governor the governor order a special session of the legislature. They will recognize that the election was unlawful and illegal, that it is likely impossible, without it taking a considerable length of time, to show the level of the fraud and the real vote count, so that under those circumstances, the legislature will select and elect the electors. Those electors from the state of Georgia will vote for Donald J. Trump.
I mean, that's the easiest way, and that's the constitutional way to resolve this massive fraud. But Linwood, do you really think the legislators in Georgia and the other states, all of which basically are, except for Nevada, are controlled by Republicans in both branches, do you really think the legislators have the cojones to do that?
Well, legislators are politicians, and most of these state politicians, they have to run for office within a couple of years.
Right.
Whether they have the cojones to do it or not, too many of them are in government because they want power, influence, and money. So they'll probably want to stay there. If they want to stay there, they're going to follow the will of the people. And the will of the people in this election was overwhelmingly to re-elect Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. I am confident that President Trump won a historic landslide election. What you hear now in the media, it's a lie. The media's been lying to this country as a propaganda tool for the people that were trying to overthrow our government for years. They groomed us. They played us. But you fool us once, okay, you're not going to fool the people of this country twice. We know what they've done now. They've been caught. In time, a lot of people are going to go to jail, Howard.
I'm going to stop it there.
Wow.
This is your first time hearing that?
It's the first time hearing this, brother. Now, when was this published? Like
this was, let me see if I can get the time frame on it. Oh, I don't know. It might have been about 5 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, about 5 days ago.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That there was a lot of truth to everything he was saying there.
Yes. Yeah. Just your initial.
Do you think people are completely just blind, or they just don't care that there was fraud?
I think they have been deceived.
And that was my next comment. Do you think they have been deceived to the point where they're like, I don't care. I'm deceived.
No, they care. I think they're frustrated.
Okay.
Because they've been deceived into thinking that there's nothing they can do to stop it. Well, when you have, this is the news media talking, right? This is what the media says. Well, you can dig up a little bit of voter fraud, but it's not going to be enough to turn the election. So you conservatives, just sit down and, stop acting so childish. It's time to grow up and just give Biden the election. Stop. You guys lost. Yeah. Just accept the fact that you lost and just go away, right? No, we didn't. Nobody lost. Nobody won. See, that's the deception. That's the lie. That's the Jedi mind trick that's being played. That's the man behind the curtain pulling the levers at Oz, right? That's the Orwellian 1984 line that they're feeding. That's the psyop that very smart people have come up with. Psyop, meaning psychological warfare. They're playing psychological warfare, and honestly, they're using the news media to do it, and they're pushing these lines, thinking they can just get conservatives and Christians to sit down and shut up like they've been able to do in the past. Well, it's not working this time. They're getting their butts kicked.
Yeah.
And they're getting scared. Mm-hmm. They're starting to get real nervous because they're starting to realize our usual game plan's not working. And plan B in the election, because it didn't go the way they thought it was going to go, and they had to dump a bunch of ballots in at 4 a.m. in the morning after stopping the count, was reckless, and they got caught. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a fire hose.
That was real fishy.
There's a fire hose of evidence coming out. I mean, these lawyers are talking about, and we're talking about credible lawyers, folks. Yeah. They're not Trump hacks. These are very professional people who have stellar reputations when it comes to legal matters. And they're saying, and this is Linwood, there's also the lady attorney who's just ripping it up as well.
Yeah.
That's Sidney Powell. And and she has a stellar reputation. And they're both saying, along with Giuliani, who has done a wonderful job, they're saying this is massive. They have... just in one county alone, Sidney Powell had a 500-page document to submit to the court of people giving affidavits of corruption. 500 pages in one county. And and people are coming out all across the nation and saying, yeah, I want to make a statement too. And they're vetting these people. And this stuff is not... They have IT guys, the computer guys, that fix your computer when you don't know what you're doing, coming out and saying, oh, yeah, this thing was rigged. This election was rigged. These machines were rigged. I mean, the flood of information, the flood of evidence. But what is the PSYOP campaign? There is no evidence.
Yeah.
Jedi mind trick. There is no evidence. There is no evidence.
Yeah.
You cannot win the election. We cannot win the election.
This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Why would you think this? Why would you think this?
Right. I mean, this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's not working.
Yeah.
And they're panicking.
Yeah.
Stand by, folks. This is getting exciting.
Sorry to interject here, but the response from the conservative side since... that November the 3rd, or the 4th, 5th, has been astonishing. Why? Because didn't they have just that million-man march for Trump in Washington? Have you ever heard of anything like that, brother? For any president?
Or seen anything like that?
Or seen anything like that?
They took over Washington, D.C.
There's been more rallies from conservatives, in regards to what's been going on.
Yes.
And mind you, they've been pretty peaceful. I mean, the only times I've seen in the news that what they're
it's only when Antifa shows up and starts trying to beat people up. It's when they show up,
exactly, and they start doing...
They're the ones doing the violence.
So...
But let me tell you something, conservatives. I know it looks good on camera for you to go ahead and just take the beating, but look, that's enough of that.
Got to protect yourself.
Somebody comes up and sucker punches you, it's time to fire back. If somebody comes up and is getting in your face, and goes to hit you. Yeah. Conservatives, learn how to fight. I'm dead serious. Yeah. Defend yourself. Maybe it's the cop and the martial artist coming out in me, but I don't understand people that stand there and let other people beat them up.
That's probably the most one of the worst travesties.
Yeah.
They'll pull out their camera and record.
Forget
Take a picture, you know?
Put that device down. Put it in your pocket. Get your dukes up, and give them a right cross. Okay. I'm just saying, you cannot. Your phone and that video is not going to protect you. There's 100 other people videoing it already, and if you're going to do it decisively. John Winglock Ing, grandmaster, martial artist that I studied under for a while, he used to say this: a fight should last no longer than 3 seconds. It lasts longer than 3 seconds. He'd say it with his accent, fight should not last longer than 3 seconds. It lasts longer than 3 seconds. You do something wrong. You messed up. That's how he used to say it. Learn how to fight, folks. Learn how to stand up. In self-defense only. Mm-hmm. Don't go to jail. And if you do go to jail, be prepared to go to court and say, I acted in self-defense and only with the amount of force that was necessary to protect myself.
Yep.
But protect yourself. I've had enough of these people getting beat up and not doing anything. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's that rant.
I love it.
So, did you have some more questions on?
No, brother. You pretty much covered that. I love that you introduced that interview there, and just the way things are going. And I think more than anything, as Christians, yes, we're commanded to pray. Yes, we're commanded to put our faith and trust in the Lord. Ultimately, He is sovereign. He's the one who's going to rule over the United States of America.
Yes.
He's ruling over the United States of America.
Yep.
Either A, he's going to keep Trump, or B, he's going to put Biden there.
Yep.
And guess what? He's still Lord. It doesn't matter.
He's still Lord. But I believe that God is using Biden and this whole situation for the purpose of uprooting this corruption.
Most definitely.
I believe that's what's
happening. I don't
happening.
think there's ever been corruption of this magnitude really, really becoming the central point, in the United States, as far as people really going, wait a minute, there's something going on. There's definitely a lot more than we think there is.
Yeah. Let's see what Sidney Powell has to say.
All right. Play it on.
Joining us now by phone, Sidney Powell, a member of President Trump's legal team. She is also General Michael Flynn's attorney, former federal prosecutor, best-selling author, one of the country's most prominent appellate attorneys. Sidney, good to have you with us. Dominion voting system seems to be figuring larger and larger in the interest of your legal team. And what is the latest?
Oh, definitely, Lou. I've just gotten some stunning evidence from a first-hand witness, a high-ranking military officer who was present when Smartmatic was designed in a way that and I'm going to just read you some of these statements, if you don't mind, so I get them exactly right from the affidavit. Designed in a way that the system could change the vote of each voter without being detected. He wanted the software itself to function in such a manner that if the voter were to place their thumbprint or fingerprint on a scanner, then the thumbprint would be tied to a record of the voter's name and identity as having voted, but that voter would not be tracked to the changed vote. He made it clear that the system would have to be set up but not leave any evidence of the changed vote for a specific voter, and that there would be no evidence to show and nothing to contradict that the name or the fingerprint or thumbprint was going with a changed vote. Smartmatic agreed to create such a system and produce the software and hardware that accomplished the result for President Chavez. After the Smartmatic electoral management system was put in place, he closely observed several elections where the results were manipulated using the Smartmatic software. One such election was December 2006 when Chavez was running against Rosales. Chavez won with a landslide over Rosales, a margin of nearly 6 million votes for Chavez versus 3.7 million for Rosales. In 2013, he witnessed another Venezuelan national election where the Smartmatic management system was used to manipulate and change the results for Chavez. And it goes on and on. He was in the control room where multiple digital display screens were shown for results and voting. The actual voting results were fed into that room and onto the displays over an internet feed, which was connected to a sophisticated computer system created by Smartmatic. People in that room were able to see in real time whether the vote that came through the electronic voting system was in their favor or against them. If one looked at any particular screen, they could determine that the vote from any specific area or as a national total was going to be against either candidate. Persons controlling the vote tabulation computer had the ability to change the reporting of votes by moving votes from one candidate to another by using the Smartmatic software.
And Smartmatic, the relation.
All right. So we get the gist of that.
Yeah.
And these computers are connected internationally to corruption of elections around the world. So,
Wow.
I think maybe we could end part one here. What do you think?
Let's end it right here as part one. A lot of good information, a lot of good stuff we looked into. What do we got in part two, brother?
Part two, we're going to look at some more evidence, and we're going to look at Rushdoony in part two.
All right, Rushdoony, part two. Other than that, close us out, brother, for this part.
All right, folks. Well, hang in there. Don't be down the mouth. Keep your countenance up. Stay in the scriptures. Stay in prayer. And remember, keep your mind sharp and heart pure. We'll see you next podcast.
We'll catch you on the flip side.
You have been listening to the Vortex Apologetic Podcast.
Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. We want to thank you for tuning in to listen to the Vortex Apologetic Podcast. It's a blessing to have you. We hope that you continue to enjoy the future episodes and to tune in and share away with others that might be interested. We wanted to thank our families for supporting us, especially our wives, that they put up with us. They allow us to have time to study and spend time in the Word of God, and in return they help us as well and they keep us accountable. It's a blessing to have them in our lives. So we want to especially thank them. I also want to just thank our church, friends, and the men's study that we have, that we continue to be encouraged about. We want to thank all these people because they support us and pray for us, and it's a blessing to have them in our life. Other than that, I hope you continue to enjoy the Vortex Apologetic Podcast. We will talk to you soon. More episodes to come your way. Other than that, I'm out. We're out. God bless you.